Okay. Testing. Hello.
This is too dangerous.
All right. Oh my gosh. This is actually happening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I didn't think that I've had this many people I know in a room since my 21st. So, yes. I just wanted to start by thanking the team here at Better Read. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Gadigal people, pay respects to their elders past, present and future. I admire this land very much and very grateful for this space and to be able to be here with everyone, so many people that I love. I would like to introduce my beautiful friend Tiff. I asked Tiff to to interview me on this event. One, because I'm much better at interviews. And two, because when I told you that I finished the book, your reaction was literally like, oh my God! I remember sitting there and I'm like, and I just had that feeling where I was thinking, I'm going to ask you to do this for me. Tiff and I share very similar values for advocacy, social and environmental advocacy. Tiff runs her own social media agency that she's built from the ground up, where she works with sustainable and ethical brands. And those of you who have read the book would know that that is a weave and a thread that comes through the book is a lot of messages about that's tied in with my blog, The Altruistic Traveller. But yes, I'm really grateful for you and for this space. And so the way tonight's going to go is that Tiff will interview me, ask me a few questions about the book. I will answer the questions, and then I'll do a reading from the book, and then open it up to Q&A, and then just mingle. Hi everyone who's live streaming. Thank you, Pete, for organising the live stream. Thank you, Ashley, the photographer. Yeah, I'm really glad that I'm able to share this with a lot of my community who aren't here in Sydney, who are all around the world. So, okay.
Over to me.
Questions?
Yeah. Well, I'd also like to extend my gratitude for the lands that we sit on today and welcome you all tonight to celebrate our amazing Bianca and the fact that she has a published book. So proud of her. Yeah, as Bianca mentioned, we met a couple of years ago and immediately I felt that we were drawn to each other, had so many of the similar values, but reading this book was incredibly emotional in a lot of ways because I saw a whole different side of you and understood that journey, and you were able to put into words so many of the things I think many of us go through, whether or not we travel, but particularly when we travel. So I think if anyone's kind of read the book already in the beginning or know you and your writing, it's really a cathartic exercise for you and something that feels really, important for you as a person. But how did it feel actually writing this book? Like, how do you feel that now it's out here and published?
It's amazing. It's surreal. Like, there's the process of writing the book, there's the process of editing the book, and then there's the process of putting it to publish. The writing part it just kind of flew through me. I've always had journals. I've had my blog for the last 7 years, and it is that way for me to express my emotions, and so it does come naturally. When I decided to write this book, it was almost like it was the 7-year anniversary of my blog, The Altruistic Traveller, where I made that really big decision to leave my life here, quit my job, and have like a big hurrah, I'm leaving Australia. My family was a bit questioning why I was doing that. Dad? And it was 7 years since then, and I felt like, I wanted to write something that would be an ode to that time in my life. And, a place where those words can almost be evergreen. And I think we all have stories in us, and we all have books in us. And for me, last year, I just felt as though I wanted those words to be somewhere, which they now are. And in that process, there was a story there. There was this story that I wanted to tell about my life, and a lot of the things that I went through that you'll find out when you read the book.
Did you have an idea of who it was that you were writing this for beyond yourself, and who would read it?
I feel like I did write the book for myself. I think self-reflection is a very interesting thing, and it comes in different ways. For some people it comes in art, for some people it comes in speech. For me, it came in, just wanting to put my words out there. And so I think because I was writing the book for me, it made it a lot easier, because I can be a perfectionist. And so if I was thinking this book is for other people, maybe I don't think it would have been as authentic. But of course, there are stories in that book that I wanted people to know that weren't just my story, the stories of a lot of the people that I met throughout my travels, people that gave me a home, people that gave me a bed, people like Nazarene, who her story comes up in the book, which is about her journey as a child labourer to now running her own fair trade enterprise and supporting marginalised women, not only in Nepal but all throughout the world. So I think, first and foremost, it was that process for me, but I'm so glad that the other stories of these people could come through.
Yeah, 100%. And so how did you find the writing process differ from when you're writing your blog or creating content that way? Has it changed your creative process now that you've completed an entire book? I'm sorry, I'm going to keep harping on about it because I'm so proud.
And this is why I got you to host. I think probably acknowledging myself as a writer as I was writing this book. I mean, I could hardly even believe it. I got halfway through and I was thinking, oh my gosh, I did that. How can I do another half? How can I get to the end? And I think like a lot of people might relate when it comes to that sort of imposter syndrome of like, can I really do this? Who am I in the world? When I first started blogging, I didn't even really call myself a writer. I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm just a blogger and I just write things. But, as I wrote this book and as I was witnessing myself and how much I enjoyed it and how much it meant to me, I really felt like, wow, I am a writer and this is who I am. And kind of acknowledging that was a huge step for me in my own, I guess, self-confidence.
Yeah. And speaking of your blog, I think it was one of the first blogs, if not still one of the very few that really speak about altruism and sustainability while you travel. And that is clearly evident throughout all your stories that you mentioned in the book. As we all go back out into the world, possibly even explore the world of digital nomadism or remote work, what do you think is like the key message for people as they travel that you want them to keep with them as they go and see the world?
Yeah, so the Altruistic Traveller was this, I guess, the name came about by this talk that I watched by Australian philosopher Peter Singer on effective altruism, which is basically the most good we can do in the world. And so when I created the blog, I was kind of really wanting it to be this intersection of travel and sustainability. And I was so surprised. I think at the time when I started 7 years ago, it was this curiosity about, how sustainability fits into our world. And when I was meeting in these countries, I realized that at a grassroots level, there are so many people trying to make our world better. And here I was thinking, I'm going to write stories and I'm going to make a big change, but there already are people making beautiful changes. So, going back to the way that I travel and the values and the advice that still comes through in my blog, I think it's about having that sort of conscious awareness of how do I show up in the world and what impact am I making in the places that I'm visiting. And we talk about like digital nomadism, for example, a lot of people going to Bali. Oh, it's cheap, it's great, let's just come here with our Western pockets and do everything, but not really thinking about, okay, well, how do we integrate with local population? How do we, work with these people? And, that comes into anything like international development. It's not about people going somewhere and saying, I'm going to change this or I'm going to fix this. It's about working together, because that's the only way that we're really going to create change, is about, collaboration and working together. So I think that, if I was giving advice to people traveling now, it would really just to shift that perspective, because everything starts with perspective change. So
we've had a lot of conversations about that sort of thing, and that's how we met on an organisation that was literally about these nomads giving back and just having that wider view of the world. But also for people who don't travel, like, what can we be doing here in this state? I think it's particularly fitting that tonight we are celebrating during the week of Fashion Revolution Week, which I know is something very important to you. So yeah, like what are things that we can even be doing in our daily lives that can uphold these values that you hold dear?
Yeah, so I was supposed to have a banner, but the banner situation didn't work, which was going to talk about Fashion Revolution. So Fashion Revolution is something that I have been quite passionate about for a very long time. I have volunteered with the World Fair Trade Organization, did some freelance journalism for them, and it is the 10-year anniversary since the Rana Plaza collapse, which was a factory in Bangladesh that collapsed 10 years ago, and inside housed the workers who were making garments for a lot of Western brands. And so that really sparked this movement of, the tagline is, "Who made my clothes?" And it's about asking brands, asking big brands, who made this? Are the workers getting paid fairly? And kind of talks into that whole spectrum of supply chain. And so, fittingly tonight, dressed by secondhand clothes and secondhand clothes.
Thank you, my mother, for keeping these clothes from the 80s.
Oh yeah, they are from the 80s. That's amazing.
Bringing it back.
So yeah, I think, it's and that's a Nazarene story as well. And I think it's just like an awareness, and it's a week that brings awareness about the overconsumption that we can get into the habit of, the almost dystopian like relationship we have with things going in and out of fashion all the time. So, reuse and a lot of those messages come through, but I'm so proud to be a part of that movement. And this is Fashion Revolution Week, so that kind of was really, really fitting. And, Nazarene's story coming through the book, me spending a lot of time in Nepal, I just felt like it was, I think, ultimately really important for me to bring those messages in the book, because it's something that I am so passionate about and have been passionate about for a very long time.
Love that. So a lot of the messages that you have in the book are very rooted in these stories, but also are very universal about this idea of the soul truth and really finding your own soul. For anyone who's going through that at the moment, in a lot of the crossroads that you explained right now, what's one piece of advice you could give to them?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, the title Soul Truth is really about coming into alignment with who we are, away from the societal expectations, away from the almost ancestral expectations, away from what people want us to be or expect us to be. And I think there was a big lesson for me in writing the book, and also in making these huge decisions. I think, Yaki, you mentioned to me on the phone about how sometimes we're just unwavering. Like, we're just kind of like, this is what we feel in our heart and this is what we want to do. And that can be a really scary place to be, because sometimes it goes against the rules and the things that you feel like you're supposed to be doing. But when you come at life from that place, from that real truth inside your soul, and first of all, when you're able to find the space and the stillness to find that place, because it wasn't really until I left corporate, where I was just in this relentless job, I would get to work at 6, be home at 6. How did I ever have the time to even know what I wanted and who I was? And so I think that trip to Asia was really this message from my soul saying, get out there and meet yourself again. You know, I think on the back I say perhaps the greatest gift we'll ever have is the journey to meet ourselves. And so when we know ourselves deeply and truly, and then we show up in the world in that way, life just happens. We always joke about how we're just flowing like the wind, and then somebody's, but don't you have a plan? What are you doing? And it's got us here. It's got me here. So.
So, like, not to harbour the point, but like you described towards the end of the book, I've, got my little sticky tabs, of course, about the wish game that you played. And I do want to remind you of one of the parts of your wish, which is want to share my message across multiple mediums, including interviews and a published book. So, now that you've done that, what's next? What's the next part of the wish? How has the wish evolved? Where do you want to go from there?
Where do we go from here? Climb one mountain, climb another. No, I think just even me being up here and feeling confident enough to do this. I hid for a long time behind my words and behind writing, because it was really hard for me to speak and to be in front of a crowd. And I think a lot of the theme of the book is ultimately that we're here to grow and we're here to overcome these challenges and overcome our fears. And so, I feel like I just want to continue growing as a human, continue, on this path. I will write another book.
Yes. I don't want to just put that straight out there, but I'm waiting for it. I mean, I'm not in the first book.
You're in the acknowledgement.
I'm in the acknowledgement, thank you.
I think it did sort of finish on a little. It wasn't a cliffhanger, but it was sort of it's only set between 2014 and 2018. A lot has happened since then. A lot has happened since then. So I will write another book. I loved writing the book. I loved it so much. Editing, not so much. Publishing, I'm still trying to do my own PR, so come back to me about that. But I loved writing the book, and writing for me is just it's cathartic. It makes me feel. It's an expression of emotion that doesn't have to stay in here. So yes, that's what's next.
I think you've been incredibly brave by being here tonight, by writing everything in this book and sharing your soul with us. Give it up for Bianca once again. And now Bianca will do a reading from the very book itself. So, thank you very much.
I had one with a marker, but it's not here anymore. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So I don't even know. Is this on? Hello? I don't think it's on. I think everybody can hear me. Yeah, everyone can hear me, right? Yeah. Okay. So I chose to read from a chapter called Awakening, which is set in Nepal. It's chapter 21. So I hope you enjoy. Those months in Nepal transformed me in more ways than I could have ever imagined. If I wasn't in the field with Nazarene and the women, I was descending my internal staircase, accessing and unlocking rooms in my subconscious. Each meditation practice helped me to find the stillness required to meet myself on a deeper level. There was much wisdom to be found in the silence of that stillness, and once I'd learned how to access it, I became an explorer of the wilderness within. It helped that I was nurtured by the collective energy of the Himalayas, being a stone's throw away from the ancient holy shrines like Swayambhunath Temple and Bodhanath Stupa. Perhaps my chameleon superpowers are just a byproduct of a collective consciousness that permeates the social pockets of our vast world. If laughter is contagious, if seeing someone in a state of sadness makes us upset too, then who's to say that me walking 2 times faster than my average walking pace in London isn't a representation of a frazzled collective in a constant state of relentless productivity? Could it be possible that the energy that we emanate influences those around us more than we understand? And if so, what would happen if the whole world entered a peaceful state of a billion savasanas? One afternoon, I accompanied 2 friends I met at the hostel, Raluca and Helga, on a day trip to the nearby Pashupatinath temple. Raluca and Helga were resolute travellers like me, and so the thought of catching one of the local microbuses, as ratty and overcrowded as they were, wasn't misgiving. Kathmandu's microbuses were an affordable transport option that connected the thronging city with surrounding villages. The 4-kilometre journey to Pashupatinath temple would set you back about 25 Nepalese rupees, roughly 20 cents. The white or blue minibuses claimed to have a maximum capacity, but that was patently redundant. Commuters fit into every last crevice of those steel containers like tin sardines, and so did we. I held on tightly to the railing above me, Raluca to my left and Helga in front of us. The sheer density of the crowd meant that even around a bend there was nowhere to fall. We just pressed up against one another like ravers in a mosh pit. We stopped behind a line of cars. In the far distance, I could see a set of traffic lights. There was traffic congestion everywhere. I could barely make out the road beneath all the vehicles. For a while, the bus wasn't making any ground. I stood there, leaning on the back of Helga's navy blue shirt, patterned with white Sanskrit symbols. He smelt like the juxtaposing concoction of tobacco and Palo Santo, a sacred tree whose wood is used in traditional healing and spiritual ceremonies. I liked the smell of Palo Santo. It had a calming essence to it, and it matched Helga's aura. He was a gentle soul born in Nepal to German parents and deeply connected to the magic of that land. I looked up at the traffic lights again. They had changed from green to red 3 times and we hadn't moved at all. I felt agitation rise in my body like an hourglass in reverse. I felt impatient. My mind started to spiral. What if we just walked? Couldn't the driver find a faster way? What if we got off the bus and tried to get a taxi instead? In those moments, all I wanted was to escape the reality I was in, to change it somehow. The erratic thought process exacerbated my agitation, consuming me from the inside out. I looked around at other people on the bus. They were simply standing there, patiently in silence. How was no one else as frustrated on this bus as I was? If I was in Sydney, there'd be a rumpus. I could hear it in my mind. I want to speak to the manager in charge. This is unacceptable, they would say. Yet there I was, surrounded by people in pacified presence. And then I stopped for a moment. I stopped thinking about all the ways I could get myself out of that situation. What did it matter if we moved through the traffic lights there and then, or at a time in the future? Why was I trying to control the outcome? That obsessive and amplified need for control was no benefit to me or anyone around me. The conditioning I exhibited from years of growing up in a society on a constant hamster wheel showed in subtle ways, like that day on the bus in Nepal. There was a mind heaviness to the culture I grew up in. It seems like we were always asked to live in our heads, to think, to plan, to examine, and ultimately to control. In those prior years, I began to challenge the narrative of leading with the mind. I learned that our bodies are capable of so much more, to feel, to trust, to be guided by intuition alone and let go of the need to control. It seemed so simple, yet in many ways, I felt those innate capabilities were suppressed, ignored, or relegated to some kind of mystic hogwash. How can we feel when our minds are a laptop with 27 tabs open at any time of the day? But there is truth to these abilities. Trust your gut, listen to your heart. These phrases hold deep truths about what we are capable of as human beings. And the more I tapped in, the more I silenced that noise of the mind, the more life started to look different. I discovered abilities I had forgotten. The bus finally made headway through the honking gauntlet of Kathmandu and we soon arrived at our destination. Pashupatinath Temple is one of the holiest sites in Nepal. Situated on the banks of the sacred Bagmati River, which is Nepal's equivalent to the India's Ganges, the site is a confluence where life meets death. Daily cremations are held in venerated ceremonies on the funeral pyres erected along the banks of the river, as loved ones and the occasional spying tourist Watch as the waning body, adorned with handmade leis of orange marigolds, transmutes into a mass of snow-like ash. It seemed the more acquainted I became with myself, the more I acknowledged my own impermanence and, in turn, death. In the culture I grew up in, death is somewhat of a taboo topic. You know the day will come, but is never spoken about or ventilated unless someone close to you passes away, or an illness or ailment awakens you to the reality that the skin you wear is on borrowed time. I used to fear death, but a deeper reflection unveiled that it wasn't death itself I feared. It was a fear of loss, a fear of letting go of what I had in this lifetime, and perhaps a small fear of the pain I may or may not enjoy in the moments leading up to my last breath of exquisite air. I was fortunate in the sense that death hadn't come up too much in my life. The closest person to ever pass over was my dear Nan. I was only 21 when she passed. I knew nothing about death and a fragment more about life. I loved her though. I loved her so much and painfully felt her absence when she left. In some cosmic way, I still feel her. When I look down at the tattered gold ring in the middle finger of my left hand, her wedding ring, passed down to my mother and then on to me, I feel her matriarchal presence. And sometimes, when I am deep in meditation or a pool of all-consuming emotions, I feel an angelic presence around me, an ancestral quilt of love and protection, just like the coloured blanket Nan crocheted and wrapped me in as a child. On days like that, the veil between these two worlds doesn't feel so wide. A silver smog concealed the sky above us as we walked down the road that led to the main entrance of the temple grounds. Makeshift stalls lined the entrance, selling a range of products from marigold offerings to brass ornaments to touristy trinkets like hemp bags and harem pants. For a significantly holy place, the grounds were unkempt. Pieces of discarded trash littered the sides of the roads. As we approached a clearing, I noticed more trash beneath stone stupas carved with sculptures of Hindu gods and deities smeared with the red markings of Tika blessings. In the distance, above the shallow, murky waters of a polluted Bagmati river, I saw clouds of white-grey smoke emitting from the burning flames. I didn't expect to be so close to the deeply sacred ceremonies, to witness death right before my eyes. I stopped, turning to look at Helga, who was walking by my side. "I'm not sure I feel comfortable enough to go over there," I said to him, confronted by the scenes before me. "That's okay," he said benevolently. "Let's walk to another part of the temple." Helga was no stranger to death. He was a nurse who had spent time in end-of-life care and was deeply passionate about tending to people in the last days of their lives. He once told me about a book he read called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. The book was inspired by Bronnie's time as a palliative carer and the discussion she had with her patients about the regrets they had in their life or anything they would have done differently. Her discussions unveiled 5 common themes. 1. I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. 2. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. 3. I wish I'd had the courage to express my feelings. 4. I wish that I had stayed in touch with my friends. 5. I wish that I had let myself be happier. I reflected on the findings he shared with me. I wouldn't have been ready to hear those words years beforehand when I actively lived a life contrary to my truest self. Perhaps in order to know who we are, we must first know who we are not. I believe our unique paths lead us to revelations when we are ready to hear them, when we are ready to acknowledge them. That's the beauty of free will, our innate ability to perceive the situations around us and make calculated decisions that shift our direction to wherever it is we ought to be going. Maybe, in its dualistic nature, death helps to remind us to live fully, to love fully, just like the rain reminds us that the sun will shine and the night reminds us that the morning will come. I hope that we haven't forgotten the very miracle it is to be alive, to breathe, to witness a world full of endless possibilities. To be sure, this life isn't always rainbows, but it doesn't change the feeling that when the time of death approaches, we are reminded of how much we have to live for.
We are now opening it up to any questions from the audience. So if you have a question, put your hand up.
Harry, my beautiful brother Harry, everybody. Oh, my brother and mother came all the way from Brisbane.
I had a question about your potential sequel to your book.
Yes.
So you mentioned that the book we have today is from like 2015 to 2018?
Yeah, 2014, 2018.
Do you think that because the theme of the first book is like reflection through travel, that with the second book, with like the COVID-19 thing, how that affected your travel and reflection through isolation would become a new theme for your sequel?
No, it's a good question. I mean, I really haven't thought about how to write about the pandemic. It's kind of, we were at that time when not really many books or movies or anything are talking about what that meant. But yes, I feel that there's definitely going to be a lot more about the inner journey. I only touch on meditation here. You know, that's sort of level 1. I feel like there is so much more growth that I've had through that. But it could come up. I haven't decided. Are we ready to read about the pandemic? I don't know.
It's over now, right?
Yeah.
Did it affect your travel in any significant way? I imagine it would, but like, how did it impact your travel?
Recently?
Yeah.
Well, I was a bit hesitant to go to a lot of these places that I had gone to before. You know, I think it was in the back of my mind about healthcare and safety, and I think we all have an innate sort of desire to want to feel safe, and so when that's taken away, it really does influence the things that you do. So in some ways, yes, I did leave during the lockdown. In true Bianca style, I left Australia.
I was going to bring that story up because I remember messaging you during lockdown going, hey, do you want to do one of the social distance walks? And she's like, oh, lol jokes, I'm in London now.
Yeah, don't ask me how I did it, but I did.
Surprise. See you when I see you.
Oh, thanks, Harry.
Well, I'm looking forward to the sequel as well.
No pressure.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Did you have a favorite moment about your travels that take place in the book? And there was one you share?
Okay, let me think. So what we've got Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia. Oh, I don't want to mention Cambodia. I think Cambodia, like Nepal, has been a country that has come up a lot for me. I've been there 4 times. I think that was almost a lot of that journey was what is in this book. But just, again, these really beautiful grassroots movements there was an organization that was turning plastic bags into products. So the woman, like I went to meet the women, they were dyeing the plastics and weaving them into beautiful products. And then there was this other organization that would go around to hotels and collect the used soap bars and then make soap for the communities, impoverished communities, and go around and educate them about hygiene. So, you know, I think those countries have these really beautiful, deep kind of movements because they know what they need, and to be able to go there and see those hubs and those ecosystems where social impact is really thriving, that was really great to write about. And also I think to acknowledge the regime and the genocide that happened in there. I think it was very important for me as a country that had given me so much, you know, just to acknowledge some of these geopolitical and these atrocities that had happened that maybe people might not know about, and to really just pay respects and remembrance to the people that died in the Khmer Rouge, and to bring that to light in the book was a real honour.
I would say on the point of, like, you know, communities knowing what they need themselves and bringing that artisanship to life. Like, I think that's why we connected over the Fair Trade movement as well. And World Fair Trade Day is coming up on the 17th of May, if I remember correctly. And the Fair Trade movement is one of those things that does an amazing job of empowering those communities themselves, the artisans themselves, and really building up those communities. And so definitely encourage you to check it out. A question over there.
I was just wondering, was there an epiphany on the room with a view when you were staying there overlooking the convent?
Oh, well, I actually started and finished the book in Malta, my beautiful fatherland, motherland. Malta brought out this creative energy in me. I don't know if it's because I'm related to the most famous Maltese poet that ever existed. But yeah, I think so. That place is really special, and my dad helped me find that place. So yeah, that was where.
You go. You're older.
I mean it as a sign of respect. You're the older sister.
Younger. I'm the oldest technically. So.
My question is, like, how can we in Sydney, being in the rat race with all inflation and having our own financial pressures, help people, say, in Nepal, or creating like an impact that will help, I don't know, generate future generations?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, there are a lot of beautiful movements. I think it starts with community first and foremost. My friends just arrived, Ness, where are you? We had a beautiful event on the weekend where we got together in this community, and we were talking about our shared values. And I think when you find yourself in those ecosystems of people that are wanting to make a collective impact together, I think there's a lot more that can be done. As Tiff said, it's World Fair Trade Day. There's the Fair Trade Network of New South Wales as well. I don't know, Nim, are you here? She's not here yet. Yeah, the Fair Trade Network of New South Wales. I guess just kind of keeping mindful, when I first started this, when I went traveling, all I would do was Google sustainable this, ethical that, social impact restaurant, just kind of supporting these people that are doing great things. Sydney has a very beautiful underground movement of social impact. We do a lot for people experiencing homelessness. There are a lot of beautiful NGOs in this city, and I think it's about just kind of consciously keeping an eye out for that. Did you have anything to add?
I will say, subtle plug, but May 27, there will be a social enterprise festival in Sydney to celebrate a lot of really amazing organisations that are giving back. It'll be hosted over at UTS, so definitely look that up. Yeah, there is a definite growing movement of businesses for good. And even how we met in an organisation that was all about travellers who want to actually give back in the community. There are a lot of people who are like that as well. And so if you seek it out, it will come, and the community is amazing and it will keep coming. But May 27, see you guys then.
Youngest?
Obviously, I love your whole book, and I have many favourite parts, but we've spoken about this. My favourite parts are when you're in Nepal and working with Nazarene. Can you tell everyone, because we've touched on it a little bit, about the amazing work that she's been doing recently?
Sure, yeah. So Nazarene is a beautiful woman that I met in Nepal who runs a fair trade shop called Local Women's Handicraft. We met because I was looking for volunteer opportunities, and I found her story so moving. There are a lot of places on this planet that are still very rural and very much fueled by patriarchal laws. In the Terai region, which is on the border of India and Nepal, women don't have many choices. There is forced marriage, and there's a lot of unjust issues in these places. And Nazarene was able to make her way to the city of Kathmandu, where she worked as a child labourer. So I believe there are hundreds of millions of child labourers still in existence today, not only across fashion, across food, chocolate, a lot of the things that we buy, we just have no idea the hands that have been on these items, and it's no fault of our own. We're not showing this. There's no transparency. And so she went to Kathmandu and she met a man, and through her resilience and through her just drive and strength was able to then create her own store and to start to support these women, pay them a fair wage. It's all about paying a fair wage to these people. And when I travel sometimes and we're trying, we want to buy something and we're trying to get the price down, and it's not really about getting the price down. It's about saying, well, why is this so unaffordable? Who is making this? So she actually, Nazarene was recently speaking at the European Union. So she has really, placed herself in this position through a lot of strength and a lot of advocacy, and it was I think a lot of people's favorite part was sort of learning about her story, and I asked her for permission to share her story, and that was a lot of that I wrote actually not this time. I was trying to get that story out to newspapers and nobody took it. And so, now it's here in the book, and since then, Nazarene has gone on and been able to get her voice heard in front of a lot of people. But that was the other beautiful thing about the book, is some of those parts were written a long time ago. I think there's one part which is an email that I sent to you, and I was able to bring it back into the book. So always write things down. You never know.
Keep that paper trail.
That's it.
Question over there?
So I just wanted to ask what we can do to share, to support you to share your story, because you said you're doing your NPR, and I know how modest you are, but there's so many people in this room that want to help. What can we do?
Thank you, Mandy. Me and Mandy used to volunteer together. Speaking of community, I have a lot of people in this. We used to volunteer together. We volunteer together. Volunteering, it's beautiful. No, thank you so much. Yeah, I guess just share maybe the live stream. You can follow me at the Altruistic Traveller. That's my Instagram handle. Me and Christina got TikTok the other day because we were like, oh, we need more people to watch this. And now we're just recording lame videos. No, they're not lame. Your videos are better than mine. But yeah, the Altruistic Traveller. Just keep the conversation going. Fashion Revolution as well. I mean, no, that's not my book. I'm being modest again, aren't I? Just kind of, just share my book, share Soul Truth. It's available at this bookstore. Thank you so much for having my book here. So appreciative. And that's like a dream come true. And yeah, just ask me.
And she's also got a really great podcast if you want to continue listening to her voice, but also really keen to hear an audiobook, just saying. But I'll stick with the podcast for now.
Yeah. Oh, and the audiobook is in production, happening slowly. When I snuck into the office on Sunday to do it. No, on Anzac Day. Did you see things move around? My colleague Julian. I moved everything around to try and record the audiobook. It's very hard. Maybe you could narrate it for me too.
Put in all the voice.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy.
And we've got time for one last question.
I'll ask a question. Hello, I'm sorry I'm late. We came all the way from South Sydney, very far South Sydney. We're very grateful and very excited to support you with this. I have a question for you, Bianca. Two questions. I guess one, as an author, a self-published author, how do you keep the fire going and stoke the creativity so that it keeps going and going to get an actual piece of work out into the world? And do you have any advice for people who kind of want to do the same?
Good question. Stillness. Stillness. I feel like I had to go all the way to Malta to find stillness. Did I? I don't know. I went a long way. Creating the space. We are so stimulated. I don't think we all realize how stimulated we are until we take a practice like meditation or sleep in one day. I think for me, creating that space, committing to myself and sort of saying, once I create that space, this is my time for creative flow. And I think that it's so beautiful to take time for yourself to engage in creativity, whether or not it's writing, drawing, something like that. But for me, it was really stillness and a bit of solitude. A bit of solitude. So I think and one other big piece of advice is that I have is not to preempt. There wasn't one time when I was writing this book that I was preempting what the outcome would be, which is really strange because I'm always feeling like I want to control everything. What? And so I was like, no, I'm not going to be on chapter 7 and think what chapter 9 is going to be. I'm going to be on chapter 7. And that's presence as well. So being able to just be present and trusting that what will come out is actually flowing through. Thank you so much. I would just like to thank you, Tiff, for being up here with me.
An absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I mean, I will say you begin your book, and it's very evident throughout the book that you said it's about love, and it's very clear that love has always guided so much of you, and it's surrounding you here tonight. I have so much love for you as well. I'm so proud of you. So give it up for Bianca once again.
I just have a small gift for you. So speaking of fair trade, this is my beautiful friend Nim. She's providing the fair trade gift. She runs a company called All of the Good Things. And it's all fair trade, so this is for you.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
Thank you. And I have one for Steph and Imogen, but I only have one. You can have hot chocolates together.
What's the itinerary for the big world book tour?
Ooh,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
We'll come follow you.
So, first up, Nepal, 11th of May. Some of my beautiful friends in Nepal are putting on a launch for me there. Next up, Italy with my family. We're going to have a book launch there, I promise. We're just going to eat a lot of pasta and drink wine. It's going to be okay. And then London, and then to be advised. Maybe San Francisco, if I'm lucky.
Well, make sure you're following the Altruistic Traveller to find out all the dates.
Thank you so much. Thank you everyone on the live stream. Thank you everyone for being here.